Sweet Home 2, high-octane moments strike again as Hyunsu transforms once more, facing off against the possessed Sang-wook. Just moments ago, Lim was escorted by military leadership to the conference room. The empty vaccine boxes in front of them incite immense anger among the surrounding officers. They had fully supported Lim's vaccine research, hoping to get vaccinated themselves. But the vaccine has mysteriously disappeared under Lim's watch. The Prime Minister, enraged, points a gun at Lim, threatening a purge if the vaccine isn't surrendered, believing humanity to be the root cause of all chaos. The Prime Minister thinks eradicating most humans will halt the spread of the monstrous virus.
대체 뭘 하시려고요? 청소.
Yu and others arrive at a stadium, where they must undergo strict checks to enter. Each person's hand is cut to confirm they're not a monster. Unbeknownst to them, they have become sacrificial pawns to the military. As the Prime Minister presses the launch button, countless missiles head straight for the stadium. Chaos ensues in the arena as people's instinct to survive kicks in. Yu and Jisoo get separated in the pandemonium. Watching the hellish scenes on the screen, the Prime Minister feels immensely satisfied. He continues to pressure Lim for the vaccine, but Lim remains unresponsive. Just as the Prime Minister loses patience and moves to act against Lim, In-hwan and a group of soldiers storm the conference room, eliminating all present. The Crow Corps timely discovers the officials' conspiracy and immediately shuts down the missile system. Although the missiles are stopped in time, the stadium has already turned into ruins. Jisoo is trapped under a massive rock, unable to escape. With the building collapsing above her, she urges a boy to leave quickly. Yu can only watch helplessly as Jisoo was buried under the rubble. After clearing out the officials, In-hwan orders his men to plant bombs in the monster experiment area. He plans to eliminate the monsters there and then lead the survivors to a new camp. The shrill alarm awakens the unconscious Ik-kyung. In-hwan is too late. The regenerative Sang-wook has already released most of the monsters from the lab. Sang-wook then finds the imprisoned Hyunsu, taunting him about the consequences of dealing with humans. Sang-wook won't kill Hyunsu, nor will he save him. He wants Hyunsu to witness the destruction of this place. As Sang-wook turns to leave, Hyunsu suddenly breaks the glass and charges out, clearly outmatched by Sang-wook. The fight is one-sided. Sang-wook impales Hyunsu's chest with a spike, awakening the monster inside Hyunsu. Seeing Hyunsu transform again, Sang-wook is thrilled. As his body was destroyed by Hyunsu last time, this time Sang-wook is cautious. He pins Hyunsu against an iron door, using the confined space to control Hyunsu's mutated wings. Sang-wook's arm, piercing Hyunsu, slowly turns him to stone, his black wings turning gray. Soon, the petrification spreads from the wings to the rest of Hyunsu's body. Elsewhere, Ik-kyung manages to escape outside just before the base explodes, but not long after, she collapses on the ice, unable to continue due to her heavily pregnant state. Severe pain and her water breaking force Ik-kyung into labor right there. As she endures the pain, the ice beneath her suddenly cracks. Ik-kyung fell into the freezing cold water and lost consciousness as she suffered an instant loss of temperature. As Ik-kyung gets closer to the bottom, an umbilical cord grabs hold of the ice above her and the monster inside her breaks out and brings Ik-kyung to the shore. When Ik-kyung regains consciousness, she finds a dark creature nearby, consuming something. In this age where monsters roam, anyone can become one. Ik-kyung gave birth to a child after less than 6 months of pregnancy, clearly aware that the child before her was not normal. Ik-kyung intended to pull out a dagger to eliminate the infant, but faced with the child's cries, she couldn't bring herself to do it. As Ik-kyung struggled with her decision, Hyunsu, who had escaped from the base, appeared before her. Not wanting to see the child again, Ik-kyung turned and left, leaving the child to be naturally taken in by Hyunsu. Elsewhere, following the stadium explosion, In-hwan led the survivors to a secure underground prison. Here, as per stringent past requirements, every survivor had to undergo daily checks. causing immense pressure for both soldiers and civilians alike. A boy had simply scratched his arm the night before, and a soldier was ready to test with a knife if the boy was a monster. Unyu grabbed the knife aimed at the boy, but the soldier was relentless, well aware of Unyu's past hijacking of a military vehicle. Fortunately, Chanyang spoke up for Unyu. Resources in the basement were extremely tight, and everyone had to work. Though work positions were limited, survivors could go out to find resources at specific times. The outside world, rampant with monsters, was perilously dangerous, so most only dared to move nearby, leading to an ever-dwindling supply of nearby resources. Yet every time Unyu returned from outside, she would come back laden with supplies, drawing the attention of two people in the camp. When Unyu went out again, the three quietly followed her. They tracked Unyu to a convenience store, excited by the abundance of resources. But Unyu didn't stop. The man in blue, seeing so much supply, harbored a murderous intent, thinking fewer people meant fewer shares. As they followed Unyu, the less bright Junael of the trio suddenly veered off in another direction. The others didn't pay him any mind and continued tracking Unyu. By now, Unyu had realized she was being followed. Meanwhile, Junael got lost in the woods and unwittingly entered a garden, where a girl was sleeping among the flowers. As he went to wake her, the girl pushed Junael away and left the garden without a second glance at him sitting on the ground. But strangely, the spot where the girl's hand touched Junael began to mutate. They followed Unyu to an abandoned factory. Unbeknownst to them, a monster crawled overhead. Unyu, attempting to quietly leave from the rooftop, was startled as a monster suddenly crawled from beneath her feet, causing her to fall from the rooftop. The two men below were so nervous that they accidentally shot a little girl. One man, seeing it was a child, rushed forward to check. The man in blue, ruthless, didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. The man wanted to continue chasing the girl, but at that moment the already dead man suddenly mutated. As night fell, the dazed Unyu slowly came to, only to find herself surrounded by monsters. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of monsters and her own exhaustion, Unyu was at the brink of death when a mysterious figure killed all the monsters. This wasn't the first time this mysterious person had saved her. Unyu quickly fled the warehouse. She believed her brother, Un-hyuk, had been silently protecting her. At that moment, the little girl appears in front of Unyu and is accompanied by the man who has turned into a monster. It seemed the girl had the ability to control monsters. Unaware, Unyu thought the monsters were attacking the girl. As the monsters charged, Unyu drew her dagger, but to her surprise, Unyu realized the girl before her was no ordinary child. The girl seemed to recognize Unyu, saying many monsters died because of her, and then turned to leave. Unyu tried to stop the girl but was knocked away by a baby monster.
쟨 안 돼. 돌아가자.
Meanwhile, on another front, Young-hoo, leading a group of soldiers in search of supplies, returned to find a horde of monsters heading towards the stadium. To protect the survivors' base, Young-hoo ordered his squad to turn back. They drove to an abandoned gas station and ignited a tire near the fuel tanks to attract the monsters. A large swarm of monsters approached from the vicinity. Young-hoo's squad opened fire, drawing the monsters into the explosion radius. As the monsters entered the bomb's range, they interfered with the detonator's signal, creating a critical situation. Young-hoo instructed a soldier to open the car roof, then stood up and set up a sniper rifle. With a single shot, Young-hoo triggered the bomb, averting the crisis at the stadium. On their way back to camp, Young-hoo's team stumbled upon the collapsed Junael. Chanyang brought Junael to Lim. Lim noticed no signs of monsters in Junael's body but saw strange scars on his arm, remnants of the girl's push. Immediately, Lim tested Junael's blood and made a surprising discovery. Intending to question Junael further, he found he had vanished. By this time, Junael had returned home only to find his mother missing. Knowing she was detained, Junael frantically sought her out but was quickly subdued by the guards. Lim arrived searching for Junael and took him to the lab, claiming he could take him to his mother, but only if Junael revealed the origin of his arm scar. Junael recounted his encounter with the girl. Lim, sensing Junael's unstable emotions, knocked him unconscious when he wasn't looking. To verify his hypothesis, Lim repeatedly cut Junail's arm with a scalpel. He concluded that although Junail's blood resembled that of the monster's, his body hadn't mutated, nor did it possess the monster's regenerative abilities. To further the research, Lim intended to induce mutation in Junail. Lim took Junail to his detained mother, overjoyed to see her son. She reassured him she was well, but then Junail took out a bottle of weed killer. However, under Lim's insidious influence, Junail believed that if his mother died, she wouldn't suffer anymore. Before she could react, Junail poured an entire bottle of herbicide into her mouth.
엄마, 죽었어?
Turning, Junail found his once dead mother reviving again, sending him into a furious rage. The scene surpassed Lim's expectations, but he was quickly thrilled again. Enraged, Junail's body began to transform, and just as Lim was engrossed, Junail dissolved into a pool of blood. Elsewhere, Chanyang found Unyu, aware that a monster had been protecting her. Initially, when Unyu and another person went out for supplies, they were attacked by monsters. The other person died, but Unyu was saved by a mysterious monster. As they spoke, the little girl suddenly appeared.
오빠는 만났어? 그 사람 지금 어디 있어?
Eager to find her brother, Unyu instinctively reached out her hand. Just as Unyu was about to touch the girl, Chanyang pulled her back. Unyu recognized the person before her as the missing Ikyung. The girl put on gloves and approached Ikyung. Ikyung took out a rope, tied up the girl, and then turned and left, ignoring Unyu's calls. Seeing this, Unyu also grabbed her belongings and, despite Chanyang's attempts to stop her, followed directly.